Welcome back to the show. It's still Good Morning Africa live on Cnetv. Beautiful program. It has
Money in the capital market, that's definitely an option through either debt or equity financing. But at this point, I understand equity financing might be one of the most feasible approach um, for startups of this nature. So this is definitely an option for them if they still intend to remain in Nigeria and get properly licensed. If they're raising the capital market, they could easily direct some of these funds towards getting the necessary license and compliance, putting the necessary compliance in place. That those are like primary requirements for them to operate. Then whatever they have again, they could expend all that into building their business and further pushing their brand here in Nigeria and expand to other places. So I think that's probably the most feasible option to remain in Nigeria now at this point. Getting the necessary funding to apparently be able to get licensed. So that's really the most
are there
feasible
some
option.
are there some consequences of not staying regulated? Projects that are still operating that are not regulated. What's the implications for them?
They could be sanctioned, so that's definitely an offense. They could be sanctioned because you definitely have to stay compliant as much as possible, and your regulators are there to guide you and make sure that people, the users are protected, general public is protected by being sure that you are properly regulated. So that's like really um, what their role is to play there. So these rules are put in place to also to protect the industry. So it isn't just a function of the rules just being there for no reason. Consumer protection is quite necessary. Making sure these projects actually deliver on what they purport to in their white paper. So it's quite necessary to do that, so you won't be sanctioned.
Okay, interesting. Let's look at on ways that these startups and projects can survive. Do you see mergers being the way forward for many projects? Are we going to be seeing many projects coming together to become one for them to be able to raise those funds and also stay regulated?
Yes, yes. That's another another angle to it. When you feel you could combine resources and bring in your unique strengths together to actually form a formidable brand. That's definitely explorable, but consideration will still have to be given to being able to match up the licensing requirements put in place by the SEC. So that's really one of the major concerns that would be there. And another thing is for companies, some for companies already existing here in Nigeria, players trying to come into the Nigerian blockchain space could also acquire some of these companies. So that's another way to look into it. You could acquire some of these companies that are already properly licensed here and operational and already have the goodwill, and that would be able to help the company actually have some liquidity too as well to meet up with the appropriate licensing requirements. So these are some of the areas to look to, and yeah, those are quite feasible. Those are quite feasible too as well.
Okay, let's look at, we've been paying attention on the licensing fee. Everybody have been looking at it. Is this the licensing fee the only fault you think that is in that particular SEC Nigeria's cryptocurrency regulation? Are there other things that you can point at that they didn't get right or they didn't consider the industry players?
Well, there are a few things that would definitely be subjective. That would be what I would say. But the licensing requirements, the liquidity and licensing fee and all of that have been put into place. These are just a few of some of the concerns. Like, let's say, for example, the limit on funds to be raised, for example, that's like another area where people are frowning out. And It's quite because some projects are quite capital intensive. So we need to give that possibility to them, possibility of some of these projects needing way more than what other conventional projects might need. That's a consideration, and I think that was provided for in I think section 7 in the rules. So that was in rule 7, apparently rule 7 of the rules on the issuance. So that was provided for, and these are this is definitely a concern, because if I have a limit of about 10 billion, if you raise so much, probably in USD, and with the current inflation Naira is facing, that's definitely a challenge when you look at what the figure will finally arrive at when properly converted to Nigeria. Then as well, looking at retail investors, though it's really for much for their own protection. So um, that's also a challenge for several of these retail investors who really have like an appetite for some of this type of investment. But I guess these are all, protective and safety measures to make sure people don't lose their funds unnecessarily, because the volatility in the market is definitely a consideration. So I won't really say, in some of these like that, it's really, I think you use the word, then that I'm trying to catch the word again. About the parts that are quiet on. Sorry, could you burn me that word again?
What did you
That you
say?
I'm trying to get the word that you used earlier in terms of
For
defining the rules themselves, saying so some of these requirements that they put in the rules that are not.
I
Let's just
can't
get over
remember.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just get over that. But the point is basically the SEC isn't you know isn't they are not putting this into place. Let's not look at it from the angle of they are putting this into place to put hardship on Nigerians. That's really not the primary aim. I'm sure they have their own view in terms of, from the regulators' view, we have to look at it too as well, because they have a duty to the industry and to the users too as well, in terms of protection and making sure only the ACE projects, really get really get to operate properly here in Nigeria, because there are a lot of rock pools out there, projects that won't really fulfill some of the requirements that some of the project offering that they purport they will be delivering in their white paper and all of that. So these are some of the concerns, and there are a few exemptions as well, and there are so many protective provisions still there, for consumers. Looking at things like the moratorium on like equity interest, in terms of how you can wind up a company that has raised money or things like that, a crypto asset company. These are some of the requirements that will definitely protect the users from being rug pulled and having enough disclosure when it comes to investing in projects. These platforms have to disclose properly and not advertise some of these tokens and other projects, indiscriminately, you know, making